Hi, I'm Kathleen Sams with Red Heart Yarns, and today we're going to be working with cosmic yarn. It's got little wormy things like, and what you're going to do, you see there's thick and thin. It's actually a bulky yarn, and you're going to work on, for this scarf, we're going to work on the thin sections. So for casting on, you're going to have to match exactly your sections. And we're going to make a slip knot on a thin section using circular needles, and it's very important that you use a circular needle on this, and as we work on this you'll understand why. We got a slip stitch on there. You're going to hold this, doing the long tail method, making sure your stitch is only on that thin section. So see, I've done my slip stitch and I have an additional stitch. We're going to work 2 stitches per thin section. So now we're going to slide this down, come up here, very carefully cast on another stitch on this thin section, add one more, and this can be the tricky part. All right, we have 2. Let me slide this down, and I'll add 2 more. Can you see how this is tricky? All right, now we have a few sections here, and I want to quickly show you how this works for knitting. And this is why you're going to need a circular needle. All right, now we're going to insert our hook or our needle, and on the end this scarf's going to make its own fringe. So we're going to skip this section, pick up the second one, wrap that around, take our stitch off, do this again, there's our 2 stitches, slide this down the needle, come up for our next stitch, bring this yarn, see the thin section? And your thick sections will actually lay across the needle as you slide it down. All right, there we go. Now we're going to slide that down. See how that just very easily works up? And you're going to have to practice with this a little bit to get the feel for it. Once you get your stitches cast on and get across your first row, there you see, we've knit. And you can purl also, but the stitches, you're only going to see the stitches here on the 2 stitches here, so I think knitting is perfectly fine. And this is how the scarf is worked. You're working across lengthwise. Now when you get to the end, you'll have to make sure, I want to show you how you're going to bind this off, because there is a special technique for binding this off. We're going to make sure you have enough of the long slub sections that match the same number of loops that you have going across, and add a couple extra because you need 2 for each end for your fringe, and then add 2 more sections in order to weave it in at the end. All right, so we're going to skip that section, do this one. All right, we're going to knit 2 stitches. Now, when you bind off, you're going to pull this through, and here's what you have to do to keep these running across. You're going to insert your yarn through that loop, pull it through, tighten it up to make sure you've just kept it on that thin section. Then you're going to have to pick this back up again, and then you're going to bind off your next 2 stitches. And this is how the whole thing is bound off all the way across. Now this is a scarf that can be made in an evening or even over a weekend. And it's not something that you're going to want to run through very quickly. Here we go again. See that? And lay this down, and make sure when you're laying this your needles down that your stitches aren't falling off. They can become a little bit loose and slide off. And there we go, and we pull it off, tighten that down. All right, and you do this all the way across, and here's a small piece. You can see this is exactly what your scarf is. It's going to be a little fuller, but this is exactly what your scarf will look like. You'll have your long sections. Here's where your 2 knit stitches are, and here you have created fringe on the end. And that's all there is to it. One ball makes this scarf.